And I did get the list that you sent me of your tickers. And do you want to start there? We could talk through them and then go look at them on the charts.
Absolutely.
All right.
Let me pull that up.
Okay.
Because the way I have to kind of get stuff from computer to phone. Um, where did that go? I know I got it on my phone. I just like to see it on the computer. Come on, buddy. Okay, I could use this. Yep, I could use that. All right. Yeah, and I kind of broke them down into some short duration
Hmm.
uh, and then longer duration. But again, now that I'm looking at these, I'm going, okay, well, they already hit the targets I thought.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
overnight, jeez,
Right.
you know, so there's something left and there's meat on the bone. And I know we're in a crazy time too when CPI obviously is going to be another big one.
Hmm.
Then obviously next week the meeting, and I'm definitely like you on this. It's like crap. Uh, it has been all day long. Uh, Buy the rumor, sell the news,
Hmm.
and sure enough, we could get our change, at least somewhat of a correction that we desperately need. Um, by that time. So it's like we're discussing this, but I guess with an abundance of caution, I'm only looking at a few, maybe some short duration, anything I could act on more immediate,
Hmm.
and the rest of this stuff do more plotting and planning to try to get it in the place I want.
Okay.
Because, another thing you're saying, one of your videos is like, you know, uh, you're going to sell into the strength here.
Hmm.
And that's why I was questioning you this morning. It's like, yeah, but I couldn't tell if you were talking about um, all of your swing trades, or did you take some positions maybe the day before that you're kind of counting on today, or where that was coming from, that you were going to sell into strength. Um, Obviously, you answer the question. I mean, are you talking about some positions you're going to just continue to hold?
Yeah.
You're trimming some other positions. In other words, how are you doing that? How are you getting between here and the release of the meeting?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. So the one of my biggest positions, Robinhood. I mean, they've just been on the tear since the addition to the S&P. And then this morning, or actually after hours trading last night, after the market closed, in Interactive Brokers, they have overnight trading, and it hit like 122. So I was like, all right. So I had 125 as an area of interest for me to consider taking some partials, but I kind of look at everything that's happening right now, and so the Oracle pop that happened yesterday, the cooler PPI right now, everything's just pushing. We're at all-time highs. We keep going up. We haven't had a meaningful correction. And then today, Vlad Tenev, the CEO from Robinhood, was interviewed on Squawk on the Street. He was talking to Jim Cramer and those guys. And so I was watching the price action as he was talking, and it was pushing up. I mean, it got close to 123. So at that point, I'm like, look, I could keep holding this thing and try to get like the big like 160, and I do think eventually it goes up to 200. But just according to my plan, I'm expecting a retracement. Now we might not get it. So just kind of looking at all those things together and erring on the side of probabilities being extended, I knew I had to take a partial. And you could see that Robinhood has since pulled back. I think we're at like 118 or something right now.
Oh
So,
man, that candle on Hood. My God, let me pull it up here. Wait a minute, that's not the one. What was the one Dear God, what am I doing? Going nuts here. So this huge black candle go down, and what stock am I talking about then? It's like it ran up extremely high to that 120, past the 118 to the 120 something. I thought it was this stock, but
mhm.
it's not. I'm looking at it right here on the daily.
Yeah.
Mm, it
But
must
this
be another one. But
Yeah,
it's got this huge, huge black candles. Like it ran up, but boy, did it shoot down.
yeah. Yeah,
And just,
and that's the thing too. It's like, okay, well, there's if I'm looking at this in terms of risk reward, this thing could keep going because there's a lot of hype behind it. Long term, I think there's so much for this thing to do. And I will be back in this at some point when it gets cheaper. But it's like anytime you have huge moves like this, it's got to get digested. And then on top of that, we haven't had a market correction or even a 5% pullback. It's just when I put all that together, all right, do I want to hold and then sit through some more downside volatility? Because Hood just went through some. It was down in what, like the low or mid 90s last week.
yeah.
So, you know, coming up from the mid 90s to 123, it's like, all right, I gotta do something. I can't keep pressing my luck here. And so it's it's an ever changing, like I'll go in with a plan, like, all right, I'm willing to hold this if I see a lot of strength, but I've got to look at everything that's happening to make the decision. And that can change from day to day as long as it falls within my set of rules.
All right. So for an example, when did you get in that one, roughly?
Yeah, so I actually got into this one later. Um, it wasn't like this wasn't at a really big low. I got in around like 103-ish. So I didn't really get in at a great spot, but it was retracing after it made an all-time high. And I had been studying this company for a while and I've traded it. And I was like, you know what? I really like this company. I do want to own it. And so when I got in, it had an initial point push, but then it pulled back. And I'm like, all right, well, bad call on this one. But I knew in the back of my brain, one of the biggest things that was kind of compelling me to do it was knowing that it was going to get added to the S&P. And typically, when that happens, you get this huge spike. And so my thinking was if I could just be in it and exposed to when the addition happens, then I can make a decision about what to do. And fortunately, I was in it last Friday when it got that addition, and then it just popped from there.
Well, so you talking late July, early August, or
So it was probably like so it made an interim high July 18th. I probably got in. I want to say like toward the end of July, like July 29th, I started picking up some shares.
right? And
Just added.
so you're scaling in other words, every time it would drop, like we had a nice drop. August 1st, was down
Hmm.
low 90s. So I guess you're adding to your shares on those drops.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Kind of scaling yourself in then. And then, so did you wind up selling all your shares at that point?
I didn't sell them all today. I sold most of them, but not all of them. I have a little bit left. But what I want to do now is wait for, so it's got the gap, which I don't know how long it's going to take to fill. It might take a while. But if we get a little bit more weakness, then what I'll do is I'll sell some puts. So then I could get paid to get back into a position. So, if I'm going to set up a swing, again, this is a company that I like and I want to own it.
Mhm.
So I know that I want shares, so I'll just sell the puts, collect the premium, and if I get put the shares, then that's great. So,
Right, right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good one to use as a talking point here.
yeah.
All right. Yeah, because to me, that for me is a little bit longer term, longer duration. Anything over, certainly over a month, 2 months, getting into 3 months, to me is longer duration.
Hmm.
And excuse me, but short duration, I was making nice pops. In fact, I learned from this trader in Alpharetta, Georgia, that started out with like $30,000, and he's got over $3, $4 million now.
Wow.
But all he ever did was he'd wait on earnings. He'd just go ahead and let the earnings happen on the ones he's tracking, liking, and so forth. But he wouldn't get in until after the earnings, and he would use those fades, right?
Hmm.
Um, and kind of leverage his way in. But then he was selling usually within a week or so of that. So he's in it, a couple days after, maybe even the day after, depending on which direction it's going. For instance, you got one. NVIDIA's not a good example, but where it's got great earnings and yet it drops.
Hmm.
And again, you have to look at the technicals. Why? The forward guidance, sucks or something happened. It's like this thing with Oracle. It's like, well, this guy's holding a $500 billion worth of dead blame order. Nobody knows about that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all revealed. Here's our meeting now
I
from last,
know.
and we just want
Yeah.
to let you know that it's like NVIDIA ought to scratch your head and go, crap, we need to hold back.
Yeah.
And not make sure nothing leaks. But
Right.
anyway, uh, so that's a good example. But that's so what I was doing last year when I was really successful um, was some of that. But man, I'd find usually within a few days. In other words, because to me that's like some real good stacking wood. Yes, I could hold on to it longer, and yes, there's some like dear God, you could pick up Nvidia at $90. What a dumb ass. Of course you would. And you could hold that, duh.
Yeah.
You know. Uh, but there's other things that's like, well, crap. Um, yeah, let's turn and burn. It's like when you see some nice advantages and it pops and it gets right around that target area, it's like crap. Go ahead and take the money and move, keep moving, but keep doing it.
Hmm.
And so instead of stacking wood at scalps so much, for some hundreds of dollars, man, for thousands of dollars, you're just stacking it. And that's
Hmm.
how in last July I did like 20,000. In fact, it was more than that. It was like 24, and my losses, my net was like 20. And was because of that.
Hmm.
And it was like, man, this is great.
Yeah.
But but again, I got burnt and hung up on swing trading that really started, when things were dicey. But then really things kind of cleared off. In fact, you go look at the charts, of course, they cleared off pretty much mid to late January. Um, but yeah, it's just like snake bit time, which by the way, you remember my Micron, everyone has their lesson in life on stocks. You got your options play that you didn't take your 115,000 or whatever.
Hmm.
Well, mine was Micron. When I bought it at the earnings June 21st last year. Right. I didn't buy it at the high. I did not buy it at the high. Because after I bought it, it went up nicely. But yeah, it's one of those nice earnings. In fact, everything was good and it just drops and just kept dropping, dropping, dropping. I remember I was at a point, and mind you, I only had 300 shares,
Hmm.
um, right? And I think maybe 40 something thousand, close to 50. All right, so, but I was at one point 17, $18,000 worth of loss
Hmm.
on that puppy.
Yeah.
I knew if it's still, I like the company. It was sound as far as people need memory chips, um, for computers and phones and whatever. So I knew to hold on to it. But boy, I tell you what, as soon as it hit the range of, here's where there was, I'll dump this sucker now and take a loss and be out of it. And this was like a couple months ago when it got down to like a $5,000 loss. I think it was July. I went ahead and let go of it. I said, well, crap, I don't know when it'll ever get back because it had so many good earnings and so much beating down. As
Yeah.
you seeing that thing just kept in a channel going sideways.
Hmm.
Well, today, if I'd waited to sell it today, I would have had all my money back plus about $1,000.
Yeah.
It crossed that line. It crossed the buy line today.
Yeah. It's amazing how, I mean, typically, I mean, it's not 100%, but typically a stock will recover. Like if it depends. If you're buying something that's just not a good company and it's
Right,
garbage, then yeah, the chances it's going to come back aren't good. But like an MU or a Microsoft or an Apple, if you have the longevity and ability to stay with it, then yeah, it's more than likely going to come back. How long? That's
right,
the question.
right. Yeah, because if someone would have said, I happen to know it's going to come back September of next year. And even though it would have been, what is it, 14, 17 months, I would just resolve within myself to go, oh, yeah, crap. Well, okay,
Yeah.
you know. But you don't, of course, know any of that. And it just, uh, again, what got me was it just on great earnings, just nothing but nice, green, beautiful earnings just would never bite. And even the analysts were scratching their head going, man, we got this thing on super buy and everybody ought to have it. It's a great stock. And no one wants to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
Until just a few days ago.
Yeah, well, and what's crazy too is this summer. So I actually, w watching this one consolidate after it had fallen and it started this big tear. I was like, man, this thing is going to break out to new all-time highs. So I actually took a an out of the money call option play, which they just seemed to work for me. I wish I would have did one on Oracle yesterday. But anyway, I thought that, hey, this one has consolidated for so long in this range that we're going to get an explosive shot, and it didn't work out. Obviously, I lost on it, lost small, but it just needed a little bit more time because then it just retraced, and now we're pushing back up. And then it reports earnings next, is it next week? No, 2 weeks from now. And there's a
Wonderful.
chance it takes out those all-time highs on earnings.
I
You know,
know.
with the way everything's running in the chip space now.
Yeah. And again, I'm happy to trade it now. It's just because, see, I'm that way too. In other words, okay, if it's a really, particularly Mag 7, or if it's, good sound company, I'm not going to sweat the load. And even on small caps and crap, I'm not usually trying to skim some penny stock and see what I can do. Um, right? So, but anyway, even so, there are some, and you'd call them penny stocks when they're down to 3, 5, $8 range. Because I was playing sound down at $5 and making money every other day.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so, right? But I would never hold those,
Hmm.
you know, and wouldn't depend on swing trades too much, but just some real short duration stuff. But anyway, right, want to try to get back into that flow. And in the back of my mind too, it's like, oh great, you're talking with Jeremy now. It looks like getting some swing trades. Wait a minute, we got this correction due. Oh, okay, Paul. Well, what you need to do is, and right, sit around, wait another 2 or 3 months, and go, well, crap, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, because not only now is it from April 7th, God, we're talking from what is this? We're talking from September 1st. Things have shot up like bottle rockets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sitting there looking at Micron now on the screen, and yeah, on April the 2nd, that puppy was in that horrible threshold where I remember this one analyst said, uh, yeah, if it's down this area, it's really, really rough. Probably not going to come back for a while. Anyways, down to the September 26th last year
Hmm.
money range. Okay, man, this was just the 1st of September, and all of a sudden, you know, yeah, up 25% in just, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days?
Yeah, that was a crazy move. I think there was some news too that had come out about it too that that pushed this one up. But yeah, I mean that's a great move.
Well, again, I got quite a few that way actually that I'm looking at. Nothing that deep because yeah, I just would troll around that area, shoot up a little bit and then back down, shoot up a little and then back down.
Hmm.
And every time we had a correction, it would go deeper than anybody. It'd go back to the Stone Age. But so right, I'm talking this now, and it's like let's pick one. Like APLD has been like a little buddy. Actually, you had trouble with AMD, but AMD back in the day for me was I could always count on that stock to give me some money.
Yeah.
Right? I just like, but boy, after it hit that near 200 mark, it was like total crap after that.
Hmm.
Um, but right, APLD is one that I like. Again, it's nothing I would hold for a long time. It's nothing huge. It's in fact, it's IPO. Let me look. Uh, wasn't that long ago. Am I looking at the right one? No, no, that I'm thinking of CORZ. No, this is not the one. But it doesn't go back that far. Anyway, it's involved in quite a few things that
Mhm.
is giving it not only popularity, but popularity based on good demand. And this one, let's see, again, we go back to September 8th, was down to 13 range. It's up in the 16 range. And stock like this, I can usually hold like 4,000 shares or so
Mhm.
on where the stop needs to be and all that. But and so right, even a dollar movement. And so that's what I was tracking here when I sent this. Let's see. Yeah, it's in the 14 and $15 area. Oh crap, that was that was yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it'll return to the 1716 all-time high. Well, I'm looking at it now, and I also got my little lines drawn when it hit that, where the resistance points are going to be, where the bears are.
Mhm.
And it's just busting through the bears. The VRVP is really looking good no matter how you stack it daily, 3 minute, whatever. So it's really been clearing the hurdles. But now the problem is, let's see, how much money are we talking about now? Or 86 cents. And again, 4,000 shares, that ain't bad.
Mhm. No.
And tell you the truth, if I'd have bought the darn thing when I sent that email to you, what was it like? Yeah, 1525 we'll call it, and 1675. So that's a buck and a half times 4,000 shares.
Mhm.
That ain't bad for an overnight.
No, not at all. Not
I'll,
at
I'll
all.
stack some, but see, I was catching a lot of those kind of things. And yeah, I'm getting over the snake bite of that. But see, I need to learn what you do because again, you scale in, scale out, all these kinds of things I wasn't doing. Um, how to position yourself, and again, the long term planning. I'm guilty of that, but that is changing. All that I did last year, I never did any long term planning. I never would sit down with a stock and say, okay, let me map this sucker out. Here's about where I should get in. And like Robinhood, we know it's going somewhere.
Mhm.
And make a plan for it and do what you're doing. I'm going to get in initially here. Every time it goes low, I'm going to take some more shares and just sit on this puppy because I know it's going to blast. Um, right now, I think Nvidia is one of those.
Mhm.
It's been hanging around that. In fact, it got to like 165 or something. And, it's been hanging around that 170, and it's a $200 stock. It should be today sitting at least $200, and that's conservative.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've got that down a longer term because I know it's got to get over the China thing.
Mhm.
Um, but anyway, let's try to move along. It's not that it made our conversation um, almost irrelevant, but because I'm looking here now at sound. Oh, by the way, sound did a nice run up when it finally caught wind. Let me pull it up real quick. Um, let's see. Yeah, it was consolidating around the 1st of September, and then all of a sudden took a nice little run up here, and it was like somewhere, 15% in
Mhm.
just a few days. Well, buddy, the bears came in, the short sellers and the dang puts and crap. That was, I could tell the day they rolled in. It was yesterday.
Mhm.
I could I'm getting to where I can tell on the candle versus the volume. In other words, you get this tiny candle out of a huge volume bar. It's like, what is that telling you?
Mhm.
Total pressure, right? As soon as people are buying it, it's being sold. Um, but right, they came in yesterday and look at today. Darn big black, not quite a bozo, but big black candle down.
Hmm.
So now it's got bears all over it. But just using this as an example, because I believe in sound, I do believe that, in fact, there was some discussion, I can't remember among who, where they were batting this thing around. Is this really just, kind of a offshoot AI company, or they really got solid footing?
Hmm.
I forget the stock that just does the cars, the voice recognition stuff on cars. Crap, which one is that? Is that INOD or?
Yeah, I can't remember who it is. I know the company you're talking about, but I can't recall the name off the top of my head.
Okay, yeah, it's been a competitor of theirs.
Hmm.
They call it a competitor, but when they finally start sorting things out and seeing how deep these guys are going into medical and restaurants and all these other things, like, hey, wait a minute, they are spreading out quite a bit.
Hmm.
And yeah, Nvidia wasn't totally nuts when they had a pretty good position in them. Um, and boy, they make a lot of money. But anyway, that's one for example that maybe we could pick on and say, okay, well the Bears are all over it. We don't know how much they're going to be suppressing this thing. In other words, it appears right now they're able to keep it somewhere in that $12 to $14 range.
Hmm.
Um, in other words, what would be a good plan maybe for this one to say, okay, at some point, just like what happened before, they're going to be able to break out of this. Because on going back to August 13th, they were riding high just after earnings, even though the earnings weren't great. They were good. Ford Guides was good, right? And then what was it, the 15th, which was yeah, we're only talking a few days after it uh, gapped up nicely on the earnings, went up and up and up. Actually, dear God, yeah, it was like 13 to 17 then,
Hmm.
right? Went to the second day after that on August 15th, and all of a sudden I got one, two, three, four, five nice big black candles down. Just totally sucked.
Hmm.
And then consolidated a little bit, and then bam, for about a week or so, about maybe 10 days, and then started cranking up here. Then sure enough, as soon as it got to this point, is when we got, total bear attack.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but how do you do that? In other words, you're not only dealing with where the broader market is at, but specifically on this stock that you happen to like. How are you going to be able to tell when you got bear relief? Do you just kind of monitor it, or?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's take a look at this one here. So let's actually start. Let's take a look at the monthly. So we're going to work backwards from the larger time frames, and then we'll just go back until we get to the daily. So we could see here, just from the inception of this company, big push higher up into that 17 range, which still was a bit of a resistance, drop down, and then just kind of sideways chop there for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Then off of the AI hype from NVIDIA, this thing pushes up and then just kind of price consolidation again.
Hmm.
And we got that big push up, and then the tariff weakness comes in. And so now, we're still no way near where we were last December, that $25 mark in terms of an all-time high. So this still has room. If we're looking at this just from a longer term perspective, this has higher to go.
Oh
And
yeah.
even where we're at right now, 1427, I mean, that's just still a pretty good value because if you can ride it up to $25, I mean, that's going to be almost a $10.50 profit.
Yeah.
So there's room here. And then just kind of looking at the VRVP here on the monthly, we could see that we do have a good chunk of volume right here where we are right now. So once this is cleared, there's not as much pressure downward, but we're in that area right now
Yeah.
where it's got to get taken out. If we come over to the weekly, just kind of the same thing that we see on the monthly, it just spreads it out a little bit more. But you could see that typically after a pop, it gets a nice retracement and some sideways movement, even back to the inception of the stock. And then December pop, drop, consolidation, sideways movement. So you can make the argument right now that we haven't had the big pop yet on SoundHound and that that's coming. The other thing too, I know that they just purchased a company. Um, yeah, this company called Interactions. So
Yeah.
SoundHound acquires Interactions. So that's good because it gives them all the patents, all the trademarks of that company, all their assets are now part of it. The reason I think you're seeing weakness today is because they just announced it and they had to spend money for it. So it's going to drain their cash reserves or if they took on some debt for it. So I think that's why you're seeing a little bit of weakness today. But just kind of looking here where we are today on the charts.
And by the way, let me stop you 1 second on that
Sure.
point. Okay. Yeah, because I think more in terms of when it runs up, has a nice strong run up, the people are who are doing their planning are saying, ah, well, this thing's taking a heavy run. We'll start shorting it now because surely it's going to drop.
Hmm.
And really, um, yeah, I didn't know the behind the scenes on that. That is, in other words, it's probably less of what I'm thinking that way and more of, yeah, there is some news. You just got to dig a little deeper and try to
Hmm.
find out what in the world's going on.
Yep. And
Okay.
then the other thing with that too, they actually just got a price upgrade today to 17 from $15. So that typically you get something like that, you'll get an initial pop and it'll sell down. So we got some of that. But there's nothing that when you look at this chart that says it's overwhelmingly bearish. If anything, it just looks like it's building pressure. And we filled this gap back here from February, and that was off the move on earnings. You had the nice retracement after earnings, support off the 50, and then we have the golden cross here. And so it retraced into the 50, pushed back up, and now we're getting, a little bit of a pullback. But knowing that we're getting this golden cross here, I like to just go back and see, all right, well, what happened the last time that we got a golden cross on sound? So this is
And
the last.
by the way, we got it actually crossed over though on August 14th. And that's when it pushed into a, not the all-time high, but that was in that $17 range. So, in other words, wouldn't you count that as the response to the crossover? Or
It,
you,
it it is, but it's typically the start of a larger bullish impulse. So
hmm
it's just getting started so you get when you get the cross, this is typically the beginning of like see how this 50 pushes way up here above
yeah,
the 200.
yeah.
We have to get something like that.
Oh,
So
yeah, a lot of more separation.
so you could see here when this cross happens, you can see how high it goes,
Mm,
right?
right, right.
So this does get an initial pop here on the crossover, but then what does it do? It retraces and it almost retraces that big bullish engulfing candle there, 50%. And then your buyers step in and then they push it up. So then you get that really big pop off of that. And
Mm.
then it just kind of consolidates afterward. So
Right.
there could be, again, just looking at this for the crossover, it's just in the infancy of getting started. So there can be opportunities here. So starting to scale in at different price points where you want to buy, just looking at these volume nodes here on the VRVP, maybe you add or you open your position at 13. Or if you want to make sure that you have exposure and you don't know if it's going to get down to there, well, you can say, all right, well, I'm at least going to start this position today at whatever price it's at, but you're not going your full um, assortment of shares. Maybe you get in with just a handful,
Mhm.
and then you have an order set up at 14, and so you're buying as it's coming down because the chart looks bullish to you. You have a golden cross. You have a price target increase, and typically those price target increases from analysts come in bunches, and also too with the Oracle move and the whole AI boom, all it's going to take is one piece of news, like what happened with Oracle, them saying they had this backlog of orders, or they have a partnership with NVIDIA or something like that. And then you're going to get that really big big move. So while we can't predict that, the chart kind of tells us that, hey, things are setting up. So if there is something that's bullish, it's like an accelerant. So that golden cross is an accelerant to tell us, hey, anything bullish that comes across the desk related to SoundHound, it's going to fly because the conditions are there and set up.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, I'm learning this part because this is the part that I would never do.
mhm,
Is some real strategic planning on the swing trades that were going to be longer duration. Um, and be able to dig in like this because, right, I mean, I should have already been thinking of this. Let me take it back to, yeah, in August. And I started getting back into trading at the end of July,
mhm,
right? And so July made a little money, um, nothing significant. And August just kind of held my own a little bit as I was weeding my way through this and getting my mind back and everything else. Right. So during that time, though, we're down the $12 range because I remember seeing it there quite a bit. And sure enough, that's when it was consolidating.
mhm.
Um, so naturally, you'd love to be picking it up at 12. Um, but so what you're saying is a little bit reverse to the way I would think is okay, well, we are experiencing a down now. However, it's not like it shouldn't or couldn't go down. Let me get rid of that. Like it shouldn't or couldn't go down. It's like it's well, like what you said. In other words, it is positioned more to go up because of all the other factors. And so, right, look at this as a down day. Look at this as off the mark,
Mhm.
because at least 17. In other words, to me, I really believe I can count on 17.
Mhm.
We're not talking about a stretch of the imagination here.
Yeah.
25 may have to wait a bit longer. But like you say, who knows? Something could pop.
Mhm.
Right, to where I can kind of set a target on this for 17 and then anything, in fact, set a threshold maybe here around this 14 mark to say, okay, as it gets below, say, 15, certainly 1450, um, absolutely. In other words, yeah, pick up shares. There's just do that. Um, and then right, you're trying to position yourself for that kind of change. All right, now I'm thinking of two different things. One is I've got on the shorter duration because again, the thing in the back of my mind is I I really don't want to be in the swing trade fully if we're going to have a bit of a dip.
Mhm.
Okay, that's when I want to be buying.
Right.
Again, sell into the strength, buy into the weakness. But right, like you're doing is you look for a stock like this that's got all the factors, or at least a good many. And it's not a chump change company. It's a small company, but it should be around a while. So you're not that worried.
Mhm.
Um, so really that is the way I need to think of this one, that maybe I do some accumulation now. Um, or do you think it just at this point would be wiser? Here we are on Wednesday. The meeting is next Wednesday.
Yeah, next Wednesday. Yep. The
Yeah,
announcement at 2
yeah,
and the presser's at 2:30.
yeah. Um, now, with CPI coming out tomorrow, let's say that it's okay. It's nothing to sneeze about. No, it's not going to cause any problems. Looks like the rate cuts are still on the board. Um, now you're talking Thursday, so you have Friday trading day. Monday, Tuesday, 3 trading days after CPI tomorrow. Um, I'm almost wondering if I should even wait to start accumulating until we get the actual rate cut and see if we don't get a drop.
Yeah. So, just kind of looking at seasonality. So I got my stock traders almanac out here. So this week is the most bullish week of the month of September. And
Hmm.
typically, and again, seasonality hasn't been really playing out, to a T this year. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, three of the most bullish days this week. When you go to next week, here's the Tuesday super bullish, but next week is where the flip happens. And next Friday, you have quad witching day. That's where all those options contracts are going to expire. There's going to be a new futures contract, and this only happens 4 times a year. So you're going to have some extreme volatility, and it just so happens to follow the Fed. So
Mm-hmm.
just for me, the way that I'm looking at this, and then
Yeah.
you go to that last week of September,
Mm-hmm.
Monday's bearish, Tuesday's bearish, Thursday's bearish, is I'm I think it's gonna like I think it's a buy the rumor, sell the news thing. I think everybody's gonna get hyped up heading into the rate cuts.
Yeah,
They're
me
gonna cut
too.
the rates and they're gonna be like, oh man, the economy is starting to cool off. And not that the stock market is the economy, but I think there are some shots here that still potentially could hit leading into the Fed at 2, but by 2 p.m. Wednesday, I think that's the time to be protected, at least from my perspective.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. All right. But if you were doing this too, because again, on today, I don't really have this all planned out. But I think the plan on this one on the short duration is pretty simple. You're looking at a target of around 17. You're trying to buy in and start accumulating somewhere in that the range it's in now, you
mhm.
know, and certainly anything that may go down below that 13 or 12, if we should have some little correction. Um, but in other words, that's all I'm looking at. It's like, why should I buy shares immediately if it doesn't look too favorable on this one right now?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I can only improve my position. I mean,
Yeah.
does that sound right? I really got to get my plan in writing, which I can do today, get it really distilled now,
Hmm.
and see what happens with CPI. If we get a bit of a drop on that, maybe start then. Or if you're saying it kind of starts flipping next week and we got all this stuff coming in, it's like just kind of be watching it day by day
Hmm.
and follow the plan. In other words, you get down this kind of a range a little bit lower, particularly, that's when you start picking up your shares and so forth. Uh, because it's nice if you're picking up shares. Let's say you don't wind up picking up all of the shares you wanted, and it's hitting 17. It's like crap. Profit's profit,
Hmm.
and you know, because really we both know at some point we're going to have a correction. I mean,
Yes.
it doesn't go on forever,
No.
and just the dude that you had that I can't remember the video you had. I can't remember the guy's name now. That was kind of predicting. He was running between the bonds and so forth, and saying that,
Yeah, yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
what was his name?
Uh, uh, Jem Kersan.
Kassan. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've still got that in the back of my mind a little bit because when you get stretched this much, and this whole thing with Trump too, where now we got a dab blame court that's threatening to take all of his tariffs off the table. And let me tell you something, that may sound exciting to some people,
Hmm.
but when you look at the revenue coming in off that, and the absolute fact, and here's what disturbs me, all he's doing is trying to get half of what we're being charged, going from zero, like China just porking us,
Hmm.
at almost zero. He's trying to get half, and it's already producing some real nice money.
Hmm.
5 trillion, worth of Saudi investments and all this kind of crap hitting.
Yeah.
So that too, depending on how that goes, would or are you tend to think that if they get the court off their back, he's taking it to Supreme Court, unless they get the court off their back and he doesn't have to change anything. I think it's kind of a known quantity now. I don't think it's that
Yeah.
disturbing, but uh,
It's
now,
priced in. I think the tariffs are all priced in at this point. I don't
right?
think there's any shock factor unless there are additional tariffs levied, but I think it's pretty clear in terms of what he's trying to do. So I don't think that that's as much of a headwind as it was before.
Okay, and if anything, the shock factor would be if somehow the court holds up and somehow the tariffs are removed.
Yeah.
Do you think that'll be a negative swing or a positive swing? I mean,
I mean, there, I forget where I read it, but it said that the best thing for the stock market is when you have, I don't know if it's like a Democratic Congress and a Republican, there's something like that, and it's basically to keep everything gridlocked to where
Yeah,
you can't. So if it creates gridlock and indecision, I think in the short term it will push prices higher in the markets.
right.
But the longer that there's instability and lack of clarity for the economy, I don't think that that's good for the stock market long term. So short term, I think there is some upside. Longer term, I don't think it's a good thing.
Okay, because we should know something on that. They're thinking, within a couple weeks from now.
Hmm.
I know they really got to Supreme Court pretty quick, and I just didn't know how much that may be a little factor with everything else too. Okay, well that's what I'm gonna do on sound. Now hymns was my other one. Where are we at on the clock here?
I got about 10 more minutes, Paul. All
Okay,
good. All good.
okay, all right. So, looking at hymns, I know you've been looking at hymns as well. So you've got some position in hymns at this
Yep.
point.
Yep.
Yeah, and you've been accumulating, I'm sure. Um, but in the write-up I did for that, that was running into some correction, and all of a sudden, it starts banging.
Hmm.
Uh, Let me get this straightened out here. Um, yeah, here we go. See, it's in a consolidation right now still. We're right. It had a bottom too on September 2nd, a lot did. And then did its little run up, kind of stopped or got stopped, and then now it's going sideways a little bit.
Hmm.
And I remember you saying at one point you wanted to get in around 41 bucks. So that must have been when you started accumulating.
Hmm.
Okay. And but in other words, how should I really approach this one? As far as a target too, again, longer term, we're looking at yeah, July it was up to 70 bucks and
Hmm.
it's running around 48 bucks now. I mean, should I be using that or something? If I keep it a shorter duration, maybe in that 55 range, that was where on the drop down, we had a lot of bear activity.
Hmm.
That's also on the VRVP where you see a change um, in the direction.
Hmm.
So what would you do when I say short term, I mean within a week or two.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean this chart is really really nice and clean because it's really repetitive. I mean, if we look here, all-time high, double bottom right on this 200, right? And then we had a lower high here. This is a higher high, but we still haven't made an all-time high. But again, you've got this nice double bottom right there on the 200 again.
Yeah,
So this pattern is just saying, "Hey, here I am, guys. Here's your W,"
yeah,
right? And so it's facing resistance here at the 150, which this is exactly what should happen. And it faced some resistance here. So double bottom popped up, got above the 50 and the 100. What happened? It sold down and then it dropped the next day.
yeah,
And we got some upper wicks coming in here. And so if you can get a little retest of the neckline on this double bottom, so down to 46, get something like that,
yeah.
I think that would be a good entry to see if you can get it higher there.
Right, right. I got you.
So,
Okay, make a little note here. So really on this one, it'd be more like a 46 endpoint and looking for a target somewhere in the 55 or so.
yeah, so I mean, you could so you don't have to just have one target. So if just kind of looking at how bullish things are, I mean, you could set your ideal, all right? We're going to target that all-time high. We want to try to get there. But what you can do is just kind of measure this out and see, all right, well, that'd be a $27 move. Well, that's pretty significant. But you could set, all right, every $7, I'm gonna lock in partials. And when I get to, let's say $10, I'll force myself to make a decision. Hey, do I just exit the entire trade and move on and pick another ticker to take a swing trade on? Or do I move my stop into the money and let it run? So you can have conditions set up to where it's not just a hard and fast, hey, here's my target, that's it. You could have a plan for your partials. You can have a plan to say, all right, at this point, I reevaluate and make a decision. And so it could be fluid and all tied on to what's happening, but you've thought through it in advance. So when you get there, you're not thinking about it for the first time. You've already thought through it and you thought about what you potentially would do. So
Right.
it's a more dynamic approach to the trade instead of it just being, all right, here's my profit target, that's it. This is giving you some ways to maximize a trade, take partials, move stops into the money, protect yourself. If market sentiment shifts, you can get out, all those things.
Right. Okay, just making a few notes here. Okay, there we are. Okay, so that takes care of those two. Um, and APLD was my other one. Because we'll work on the longer duration next meeting, and what I'm going to do is also try to put a little meat on the bones of what I put down here. Again, based on how we're talking now.
Hmm.
But that APLD, that's one too that has jumped here this past day a real good bit. Um, and just real quick here. All right, right. Uh, it didn't really have too big of a dip on the second. They had theirs on the 8th where it got down to $13.
Hmm.
Right. And so, it rose up to 17, $4 in just a couple days, in fact, 2 days. And it's looking like it's going to settle down to 16.50 somewhere in there. Um, yeah, and this one too, it's hard to tell. Did it just fall out of range here? I couldn't find any news on it as to why particularly in these past few days. One, two, three, four, five. The past week is when it came off of 17.50 and went down to 13.25. So I couldn't find out why that was too much. I think it's another resilient one
Hmm.
that should. The earnings were good and probably should. In other words, you see the run up like just before the V there in the end. You
Hmm.
see that run up there or how that scales up.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it seems like that should have. We should really have seen a continuation on that. So I think I need to dig deeper into why in the world it is, why in the world it did drop, because everything I've been hearing on them has been real good.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, but I think this one too. Uh, I just don't know what's going to happen over the next couple of days. I wish I really would have got in. Obviously, 8 would have been the greatest time, but even yesterday would have been when I should have got in the thing or started accumulating.
Hmm.
Because on this one too, I want to keep it short term. And by the way, on my short terms, I'm not even sure I'll accumulate too much. It could be that the way I was doing it is I'd go ahead and buy it, hold it, sell it.
Hmm.
Because here's another goal of mine. Um, right, I've been taking money out of the pension to supplement my other income, and I only need about $5,000 a month from this.
Hmm.
Okay, and so my next target date is somewhere around the 28th. I need about $5,000 between here and there, roughly within the next 2 weeks. So I'm looking to run a couple trades like this, pull in the five that I need, and from here on out, all I'm doing is making money and taking that out to
Yep.
where it's at least $5,000. Anything over that, fine, I can do some other things. So that's why I kind of need some quick money and why I'm kind of thinking to try to do it this way. But I know you're probably not so familiar with the stock, but do you have any comments on it? You
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the one thing that stood out to me whenever, and I've traded this one a few times before, but after this pullback after February, again, this is the April lows. You can find this on any chart. You had this where this turnaround happened. You have this nice trend line that it is respecting greatly. And you can see that lines up right now with the 50 simple moving average. So this is a very, very significant price area. And you could see we consolidated on that trend line. following the dip, and then we spiked, we pulled back, and where did we bounce? We bounced right at that trend line, which is right next to that 50. Push back up, we pulled back right into that trend line, right into that 50, gapped up on earnings, pushed up, pulled back again, right to that trend line. So this price area is significant. And until this gets broken, then this is in play as a bouncing point. And then really just measuring out, all right, if we just go from this trend line to how far up it went, that's 145%. That's quite a bit. And then from here, it's like 73%. So just to get an idea, all right, well, how much more of a move is left here, right? So there can be a move there. It looks like, it's moved quite a bit here, but if it follows its pattern of getting a strong bounce off of that trend line, because it's already retraced into that, this might not be a bad spot to take a flyer and see if you can catch a couple dollar move.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
So those trend lines too are important, and seeing if they line up with the moving averages, and then looking at them in relation to the VRVP, because you could see too, you do have some pretty thick volume nodes here over to the right in between $13 and 14.67, which kind of lines up with that trend line in that 50. So, this space should hold, right? So if I drew a box right through here, this area should be protected. So if it does pull back, and maybe that's what you wait for, you're to take this trade, you want to see something just comes down into this box. It's not even a specific price, but if it comes into this box or gets close to that trend line, then you're gonna take a swing trade on it.
Okay, got it. Okay. All right, sounds good. All right, so we'll kind of for next week kind of look at the longer duration a little bit. Um, I'll leave you with this. Excuse me. I found out that Microsoft, maybe you know this, is using Nebius. You ever heard of Nebius?
I did this week was the first time I heard of them,
Yeah,
but I did
NBIS.
before.
Yeah, yeah. And I had never heard of them, but until, of course, they got involved, and I guess they're doing space overflow and this stuff. But the price target got raised, and of course they jumped like crazy. They're already price target got raised to 75. They're running the 90s now.
Hmm.
Uh, but they also tied in with some other things that are going on to seem to be real hot. That IREN, don't know if you've used that too much, but they're buying NVIDIA chips and really pushing hard. They're literally saying their cloud revenue should go 10x by the end of the year. Between
Wow.
now and the end of the year, their revenue should go up 10x.
Wow.
So I figured I'd drop that one on you.
Yeah.
I've been really watching it since, and of course, CoreWeave and Core Research. Am I saying those right? Uh, yeah, CoreWeave and Core Research. They've been trying to run together, do some kind of deal, but it looks like some things are coming to a head because they got some ties in this Nebius thing. I don't know too much more than that,
Hmm.
but I did notice that all of a sudden we saw some real good activity. CoreWeave was one of those hot to short stocks,
Hmm.
both of them, and all of a sudden now you're seeing them run up a pretty good bit. So I'll just drop that on you. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, and two, I've been meaning to get my tickers out in the Boxer, but I can't seem to get them transferred from trading view on my computer to my phone. It's like there's just no function that says here, take a picture like you do on the chart.
Okay.
Yours look real neat and clean. I mean, real quick, what did you do? I mean,
Yeah. So I do a screenshot, so I don't even know if you'll be able to see this, but I do on a Mac, it's Shift Command 3.
oh
And
yeah,
yep.
yeah,
And then can you see that?
yeah. But in other words, then you're going to crop it
I
after you.
crop it. Yep. Yep. So I just crop it like this.
Okay, because I don't have that much of a spread on mine. But here's what I can do. I can work within TradingView when I think about it, stretch it around before I do the screenshot to where I can include more tickers. Because that was my problem. You've got, dear God, like 20 tickers on a shot.
Yeah.
I don't, but I can minimize that other window down below. Okay, I got it figured out.
Okay.
All right, I want to get those out there and keep this exchange going. I think it's been really great,
Yes,
and
sir.
yeah, everything going on is really fantastic.
And I will get this video over to you, and then I'll put us on the calendar for next week, same time, and we're just going to keep plugging away.
All right, sir. Appreciate
You know what,
everything.
Paul? Actually, I'm sitting here thinking, so we got the Fed next week
Oh,
with,
that's right.
yeah. So
Fuck, yeah.
do you want to hop on at 1? I just need to be done around like 1:45. Do you want to do 1 o'clock next Wednesday?
Yeah, let me just double check. I'm sure this can be okay.
I'll put that in my
Yeah, I was
calendar.
thinking about that too. Um, and my wife should be, crap, when is her thing? Tomorrow. And one last stop here. So that's going to be the 17th is what we're looking at. Is that right?
Yep.
All right. And her date, 9/17, is at 3:20. So one should work. Yeah,
Okay.
one should work. That should work. All right. I appreciate it. And we will look forward to seeing you again then.
All right, Paul. Have a great week. Take care.